Sportsman with Gareth McGuinness.
Welcome back to the podcast, the 12th Man podcast, that is. Delighted to be back. Well, I say I'm delighted to be back. I would like to be talking about our thing, to be honest, but we do have to start. We will be talking about the North London derby. Arsenal beat Spurs by 3-2 yesterday. Arsenal were 3-0 up in that game, led Spurs back into it, and Spurs are pushing hard towards the end for a draw. We'll be talking about Ange's first season at Spurs. I know the season isn't over yet, but you know, what do we make of Ange? Is he the man to get Spurs competitive? Or is his tactics just too stubborn and too arrogant for this league? We'll be looking at Arsenal as well. I mean, are they the best team at adapting the opposition? We've seen them adapt the Spurs yesterday, Man City in recent weeks. They're set pieces as it as good as a plan B as you can have. If Arsenal can go on and win the title, and if they were to win their last 3 games, would they be very unlucky not to win it? We'll be looking at Man City after their win at Nottingham Forest back. I actually made a mistake on it right now. They're not actually top of the league at the moment, but very much they feel like they are top because it's on their hands, obviously having a game extra they play. That game coming against Spurs, that game in hand, what kind of atmosphere will be inside that stadium? Could we actually see home fans cheering on the away team? I can't remember a situation where that's happened before. Certainly not in my lifetime of supporting Spurs in a way. And we'll be looking at Liverpool after their title. You could probably say it as a bit of a collapse. I mean, they've fallen off a cliff, long way behind now, and still mathematically a mid chance, but it's a very slim one. I think any Liverpool fan, even the most delusional Liverpool fan, would tell you that it's all over. And so what does that mean for Liverpool in the last few games? I mean, nothing to play for, potentially playing Spurs and Villa, who could be battling for 4th. Will we see just a nightmare ending to Klopp's tenure? We'll look back at the rest of the weekend results, including we've seen Sheffield United relegated after a 5-1 defeat. Onana being punished eventually for the same mistake he made at the start of the season, which gives Burnley a fighting chance of staying up. It's between Burnley, Luton and Forest, 2 from 3 who goes down. Chelsea denied a famous comeback at Villa Park with VAR. Going to get Owen's thoughts on that. And we're going to look ahead to the midweek action, including Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Dortmund, PSG, Arsenal, Villa, Olympiacos, and of course Chelsea and Spurs playing that game in hand on Thursday night. Also, famously, the Battle of the Bridge. Are we going to get another one? These games tend to be as feisty or sometimes even more feisty than the North London derby. So that's the end of the show. Owen, how are you before we get started?
Not too bad. To be honest, I'm just ticking down the days now to the end of the season, trying to enjoy the last 3 games of Klopp as much as I can, but they're not making it easy for me, I'll tell you that.
Stefan must have been waiting for this one. I meant to actually check with Stefan. I don't know if he's still in Dubai, so we'll have to get him on again. We'll possibly get him on for the United Arsenal game next week. I think that might be a good one to keep him for. So Stefan, stay in touch because we'll probably get you on for that United Arsenal game next week. But Stefan will definitely be on his high horse after yesterday's one. Let's talk about yesterday's game because very strange game on in terms of, you know, I thought when Arsenal were 3-0 up, Spurs could have been pissed at. I mean, even though Spurs kind of helped Arsenal out with them goals, you know, 3-0 was probably a wee bit harsh on Spurs in the first half, but you're kind of thinking at half-time, with the way Spurs play, we've seen what happened at Newcastle, this could be 4, 5, 6. Yeah. But in a way, Spurs sprouted, came back, and Arsenal sat off, and Spurs made it in there, be finished in the end. I know they didn't really create anything after the penalty, but all it took was a ball they dropped somewhere. And because I don't know, we're sitting here very differently talking about an Arsenal ball job, but Arsenal hung on, got the one. What did you make of the game?
It was same as you. I thought once. Oh no, is there a comment coming on here?
Oh, not today, Stefan. Not today. You can comment from the side there.
I noticed you weren't commenting after Villa beat Arsenal. You're just no. But anyway, no. I agree with you. It was a strange game. It wasn't a 3-0 game to me. Like if someone had turned that on and saw 3-0, they would have thought Arsenal pissed at Spurs. But to be fair, I actually thought it's mad to say Spurs were slightly the better team. in the first half for me.
Well, they didn't defend as a better team, and I tell you that. I think that what you mean is they had a lot of possession, but did
It's just
Arsenal allow Spurs that possession though? I mean, did they
I
see what
suppose.
happened at Newcastle and think, let's just sit and wait for Spurs? They're going to make mistakes. They can get on behind them.
I,
And Arsenal, I mean, the first goal was really poor from Spurs, the OG. The third goal as well is really poor. Suppose the second one hinged on a one big call in the box. People are very much divided on the Kulusevski penalty appeal. I have to say, I think it would have been incredibly harsh had VAR got involved there. I think if the referee had to give it, it wouldn't have been overturned.
yeah.
But I don't think there's enough there to say it's a clear and obvious error.
No, for me, it wasn't a penalty either. The don't hey hey, we could still end up by winning more than Arsenal this season, but
That's true.
um, I for me it wasn't a penalty. The Kulusevski one, but I thought the offside goal was very harsh.
Well, we come back to that, I suppose. I mean,
Because
it was a
that's what
factual. It was a These are a factual decisions, but I mean that was super unlucky. I mean, the fact they've had the post, they've had a 50-50 penalty go against them, and the
Romero
offside
could
one as
have had a
well.
hat
I
trick.
mean, I think for as good as Arsenal were defensively, and only gifted Spurs a couple of goals too. The things went for them as well. You know, on another day that's onside.
Yeah,
On another day, another referee may give a penalty, and the second goal doesn't go on. And on another day, Romero scores at least one of them two headers, and Son probably even maybe does a lot better with his chances. Ord and Saka's must in the second half we'll chat about. Arsenal didn't create an awful lot as well. So I mean, it's a hard one to judge. I mean, I felt that maybe things just went against Spurs, which can happen in any game. You know, it just didn't go for them yesterday. I felt that the rub of the green went Arsenal's way, and you need that. They won Premier Leagues as well.
as we were talking during the game yesterday, and you said that to me. Like it goes for you and it goes against you sometimes, and you just I'm fed up talking about referees and this and that because the one that really astounded me yesterday was how did Michael Oliver not give that penalty right there on the spot? He literally kicked him right near the family jewels. Like I don't know.
Mm.
It's like
It was a
it's
stonewall penalty. I don't know how
it's a strange one,
Oliver
but
didn't see it.
for Spurs, like obviously it's painful they lose the Arsenal, especially in the circumstances. But as you spoke about at the top of the show, are they going to go into that Man City game and just go, there you go, steamrolls? It's like
We'll come on that. Stefan saying it was quite lucky how it fell. It was, but I mean, I think it was very fortunate that,
that's
and as
why I
well, I
thought
was listening to the ref watch today. It's a 50-50 as well, and whether Tommy Asu, whether he played his mom, because I know it's one of them
that's
ones. It has to be a deliberate action, but I mean, again, I just felt that a lot of them things went for Arsenal yesterday. Not to say that there was nothing major. I think it was all 50-50s. I wouldn't say it was a robbery. That's not what I'm saying. I think on another day, them things could have went Spurs' way, and we're sitting here talking about a different result. There
I like
wasn't a lot in the game. I know the way it transpired. Arsenal will say they gifted Spurs 2 goals, but I mean, you could say that Spurs gifted Arsenal 3 as well. So I don't think there was any individual brilliance in the game. It wasn't like that. I didn't think there was, moments of magic in there. I thought Arsenal were the better side overall in terms of they defended much better than Spurs, and that was the difference. Arsenal are
I
miles
think
ahead of Spurs when it comes to defensively, and that's where I come on to one. I don't want to spend too much time in the game because I think there is more to speak about in regards to the two teams. Um,
yeah.
I think Ange is being questioned now. I think obviously losing their rivals, more questions are asked, but I don't necessarily think he done a lot wrong yesterday. I think Spurs still played decent defensively, set pieces, but I think that's a bigger issue. It's not the first time this season Spurs have been caught out. And what I'll also say is Arsenal have caught a lot of teams out with set pieces anyway. So there's an argument that Arsenal have scored I think 19 from set pieces, so it's not just Spurs that had them issues.
It's the most in the league. I think Arsenal scored, isn't it?
Well, that's it. So let's talk about Ange because and we will come on the Arsenal too, Stefan. I mean, are Spurs becoming too easy to play against? We've seen Fulham set up similar. Newcastle did it. Spurs had 70% against Fulham or Newcastle too. 72% possession in the first half yesterday. Had a lot more possession as well than Arsenal in the second half. It's almost like teams are happy to give Spurs the ball and think, you know what, we'll get you out going the other way.
It's like I'm in the same boat as a Liverpool fan. We're two very similar teams. Like we can't seem to put our chances away, and we can't defend. That we both can't defend. So I think teams have figured Liverpool and Spurs out. So that game on Sunday is going to be very very interesting. But
Mm.
I think I've said to you all season. I think Ange is very stubborn, and he needs to change it up at times because he is going to get caught out, and he has got caught out in the last few weeks. You look at that Newcastle game, like not they ripped these to shreds, like so. It's a strange one, but
And he
it
scored
is his
four
first.
goals with 28% of the ball. I mean, that's alarming.
It, it is
I
his
mean, it's
first
a
season
difficult one
too.
for the manager,
Yeah,
right? Because he's very insistent on this style of play. You know, if he changes it, does that does the player start to doubt him then that he maybe doesn't believe in his own way? Or does he keep ploying on, get some maybe better players on that can help and stick with it? It's a difficult one, I think.
yeah,
I don't think it's just pride. I think he's setting out that mentality that we have to go into every game trying to beat the opposition as opposed to maybe changing it. And like it's a results game. And I mean, Arsenal went about that game yesterday knowing, we'll let Spurs play and we'll hit them on the break. But that can easily backfire. I mean, if Spurs come out of the traps and score 2 or 3 goals, everyone starts saying, well, why'd you sit back? It's very fine margins in
yeah.
football. Arsenal were praised for going to Man City, getting a result at Man City as well. But if Man City had scored the 94th minute, we're sitting going, well,
They're
Arsenal
gearing there.
wasted an opportunity. They went to Bayern Munich, had a similar state of play, and they lose that game. So things can go for you and go against you. And I suppose it is gambles a lot of the times. Um, and just going down the route of we're going to keep playing our football and we have to improve. And one of the things he spoke about is the set pieces. He's been questioned about this, and he says the Spurs have bigger problems in defending set pieces. But I mean, is that a bit arrogant? Do you think they didn't maybe dismiss that set piece because teams are targeting Spurs and like Ange can talk about his football all he wants, and that's great. But if results don't, if you're sitting here next year and results are the same, he might not
Mm.
have 3 or 4 years. They bring them players on that he needs to kick on.
I think it is a bit arrogant to say that they have bigger problems in set pieces because they're conceding like every set piece Arsenal got yesterday. I was thinking goal, 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 or something's going to happen.
There was
But
ironic cheers. I think it took second half. I think Arsenal
the
scored from their
same,
first 2 corners, and
uh,
Spurs
but
actually cheered when they defended the corner in the second half. But I
what I
think
think,
Danny makes a good point. I mean, you look at them back four defenders, and you think all very decent players. I mean, it's going to be hard for Spurs to get better than what they have. I think, and because for me, I'm a big fan of Porro and Udogie. I think Udogie's young. He's definitely not been a strong second half of the season. Van de Ven, you've seen it yesterday. How many times, even when Arsenal counter attacks, there was one he come up against Martinelli. Martinelli was just on the pitch fresh, and Van de Ven just bolted past him. So he needs to be in there for that style of play. And Romero has his critics, but I thought he was outstanding yesterday for
he
Spurs, and
was.
he could have had a hat trick and an already. So um, very difficult to see how Spurs can upgrade on that. So it suggests they're going to have to tinker with that style of play.
It's I keep coming back to it, but I have the same problems as a Liverpool fan as well. Like we have decent defenders, but we're very open at times. So I
Mm,
think that's gonna be a big priority in the summer for both teams. I think to get another centre half in. I just
mm.
think I just think I don't think Ange will change his style, but I think he needs to stop being as arrogant as he's being at the minute and saying, "Oh, we'll just no matter who we're playing, we'll just play the same way," because it's obviously not working at the minute.
Mm. Um, as we said, Spurs more chances, more possession. And as we spoke about the top, some calls were favoured the Arsenal, and an already could have went the other way. So, I mean, do you think it's more about the overall, the sort of last 6 or 7 games, than it is so much about yesterday's performance? Because I suppose it's flat. The North London derby, no fan wants to lose a derby. But
Yeah.
I mean, do you think it's more down to the results at Newcastle and Fulham, where Spurs fans are worried as opposed to yesterday?
Aye, because you expect well, maybe not Newcastle at St James's Park, but you expect they going to beat Fulham, and that's a Newcastle. You don't know what Newcastle's going to turn up this season. Like they go and beat Spurs 4-1, then lose the Crystal Palace, lose the an informed Crystal Palace at that. But like, I think that has a lot to do with for Spurs fans losing them 2 games has sort of put the brakes on the hype for Ange a bit. But I just think it's his first season too in the Premier League. There's always gonna be bumps in the road, and I'm expecting that next season too when we get our new manager. So I'm not gonna be shouting and screaming, going mad next season because it does take a year to get things properly in order. I think.
It's a strange one because like Spurs were like, a lot of Spurs fans were feared in the summer. A manager coming in that everyone says Scottish League Celtic don't really know much about him. Harry Kane leaves, and you're thinking Spurs is in big trouble.
Yeah.
Yet they're still mathematically in a chance of top four. If they really won all their games, they would have a
I
chance of
think
big ass considering the games they have.
yesterday's result actually confirmed Liverpool in the Champions League unless Spurs scored 27 goals.
But I mean, big ask. You look at Chelsea away, Liverpool away, Burnley at home, who are now fighting for something. Be interesting to see what Burnley have definitely improved as the season gone on.
They've only
Man
lost
City
one
at
in eight, I
home
think.
and Sheffield United away. Difficult to see how Spurs can finish fourth. I mean, that is tough run, and
I
they
think
probably need Villa. They start slipping up as well.
like the game on Sunday. I think that's a shootout. Like I can't call that now as a sit because we're not in great form. Spurs aren't in great form. So God knows.
I think Spurs would have to win both games this week to get themselves back on it. If they're sitting on Sunday 4 points behind Villa with a game in hand, of course they've got an outside chance. Who knows? Villa could possibly drop points before then as well. So I think
If
we'll know a
Stefan,
lot more after this
if,
week.
if Stefan's still in the chat, are you still thinking that stuff about Unai Emery? I still think he's an overrated manager.
Um, summer window's approaching. Season's almost over. I know Spurs will be sitting here 2 years ago and thinking, we finished above Arsenal and we got into the top four. Arsenal
Yep.
finished fifth and kicked on. So that proves maybe that you just do the Champions League's great, but sometimes you can improve without it. As Arsenal shown, went and finished second the year after with the right investment.
Yep.
Is that the only way Spurs can go forward now, do you think? I mean, do you think where they're at, it's probably not going to get much better what they have? Do you think they need massive investment? They push the likes of Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool if they come back on it? Because Ange says he's here to win trophies, not to finish fourth or fifth place. Daniel Levy keeps telling the Spurs fans that he's here to compete, he's here to win trophies, yet the Spurs fans doubt that. So if they're going to push the likes of City, you think with Liverpool losing Klopp, they may not be as strong. If they were going to push on third, maybe even set, who knows what'll happen next year, but how much...
But I offer no resistance to helpful assistance.
Thanks, someone's been active on my phone there. How much do you think Spurs need to spend realistically to close that gap to the top? Because they're 20 points behind Arsenal now.
I don't know how much because there's not a lot of, but I do think Spurs need a top striker. That's
It's Jimenez was at the stadium yesterday. I think he plays for Feyenoord. I don't know what's on that, but he was at the Spurs stadium yesterday with his agent. So, there's something on that. I have never heard of him.
Funnily enough, there was a Feyenoord player at the West Ham Liverpool game as well, a centre half. So maybe there's something in that too. But no, I think Spurs need a striker. Maybe they need a top quality defensive midfielder as well. For me, I think.
Stefan says we need about $1 billion.
I don't think Grappa.
I think the recruitment over the last year has been decent at Spurs. I think Van de Ven's been a good buy. Udogie's been a good buy. I think the goalkeeper's been a good buy. Madison's been off the boil lately, but well, that's down to fit. I'm not sure. If you can get the Madison back at the start of the season, you've got a great player. So I think there's reasons they suggest that they could improve in the summer. Let's look at the other team in the North London derby because Arsenal got a big one, and they were obviously putting the pressure on Man City. Man City responded, so we're back to where we started. But I mean, I mentioned it earlier. Arsenal went to Man City, played a certain way. Went the Spurs played a certain way. They've been unbeaten against the big six teams this year in the league. Only Man United away left to play in those games. They haven't lost to any of them and won quite a lot of them. Are they the best team at adapting the opposition? They can play different ways. They win games. They can go at you front foot. They can sit off you. They can punt. They can beat you from set pieces. They've scored the most goals, conceded the least. All the stats point to them being probably better than Man City, but Man City might just nick it.
You
I
you would
mean,
have to say they're even though they're not well they are at the minute, but they're probably not finished there. They have been the most consistent team this season. They've scored the most goals. They've conceded the less goals, and even though Spurs had a few decent attacks yesterday, it's even though Spurs had decent attacks, they never really threatened Arsenal from open play really, and it was Raya that sort of got the ball rolling, made a mistake. But I just think a big thing for me is keeping Saliba and Gabriel fit, and the addition of Declan Rice has just brought them up a different level. So they, as much as I don't like him because of what he did to our great country, but is no, is a top quality midfielder, and once he came in, you knew they were going to get stronger, and the way they play, as you say, they can drop off you, but they can hit you on the counter. So they have great ways of playing football, but is that going to result in them winning the Premier League? I'm not so sure.
not this season. But the sense that they're not going away, but they're only going to get stronger.
No,
Is
no,
that the
no.
worry for? Is that the worry for the likes of maybe Liverpool, Spurs, even if Man City were they drop off after a Pep leaves, that Arsenal are sitting ready and primed to go again? Like, and I'm kind of looking at that now as even if Spurs stop or if Spurs roll over for Man City and Man City go on, they won the 4 games. I'm kind of thinking there's a good chance we'll be in the same situation next year. I think, or I just see this Arsenal team getting stronger and stronger.
They're not going to go away. They're here to stay unless they have a complete collapse, which is it's in Arsenal's DNA. So you never know. They can what well saying what did I
Um,
say?
I think he's
Hey,
he's afraid.
I've said all season if Man City don't if we don't win the league, I'd rather them over Man City. But
Mm,
as much as it would pay me, having to listen to him, but no, they're not going away anytime soon. And with Liverpool losing Klopp, with United possibly losing Ten Hag, they're and you don't know what that's going to be. Chelsea, you don't know what that's going to be. So they're not going away anytime soon, unfortunately.
the only thing I think that can be maybe said is I think Paul Merson said it in Sky yesterday after the game. He says, I would fear for them in the summer if they do win their final 3 games and don't win the league, because you start to think, what else can we do? They've been on this great run since January. Only that one defeat to Villa, and then
Yeah.
the only other game I think they drew with Man City. I think they've won every other game, and that may still not be enough. You know, would there be some doubt there? But I sense that they're young. They're still. I think they're going to be around, and I'm starting to think it's just a matter of time before they do want.
I well, while Man City is about, I don't think anyone's won. While Pep's Man City is about, we'll say. I think they're just going to keep winning it until he leaves, and then when he leaves, God knows what happens. Because well, hopefully before he leaves, they get hit with the charges, and then I'll be laughing. Oh, I'll be laughing. But no, fair play to Arsenal. As much as their fans are hard to stick, they're uh, they're a great side, and they are going to get stronger. Because I do think they're not going to stand still. Like they're going to invest in the summer as well. And I think as much as Havertz has done well and fair play to him, I still think they need a top number 9.
Well, what's that? You would say that, but then they've scored the most goals, like, so it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
I think that was an orphan come up yesterday on Sky. Merson says, I'm not sure how you improve the first 11. If Party's fit, he may move on, but it's very strong midfield, very strong at the back. Timbers to come back in. And it's that catch-22 now. If you want that striker, where does Havertz play? It's a difficult one. You can probably improve the squad, but if you're signing a top striker, he's going to want to play every week. So it'll be interesting. I mean, a lot of talk about Plan Bs today, Owen, on Talk Sport. As you know, I'm a big fan of Simon Jordan, Jim White show. Martin O'Neill was also on, and they were asking him about Plan Bs, Spurs' lack of a Plan B. And they mentioned Arsenal's weapons of set pieces, free kicks, corners, even throw-ins. They've caught teams out. Which, again, if you're not on your best, you have that backup, being very good at set pieces. And I think yesterday you look at the set piece coach for Arsenal, he's standing on the touchline with Arteta, almost expecting something to happen when the corners come into the box. Maybe that was down to the new Spurs weren't great at them, but I sense there's a confidence within them that they're going to score from these set pieces, no matter who they're playing. So, I mean, where do you stand on that? I mean, some people. I remember some fans were giving stick about it. Arsenal for a while they were relying on set pieces when they were going through that sticky spell, but obviously they've been brilliant since Christmas or since after the Christmas period, and they've been wiping the floor with teams, but also still scoring from set pieces. So I mean, it's a great weapon they have in your locker.
I wouldn't care how teams scored as if Liverpool was scoring if Liverpool were scoring from set pieces and barely nothing else. I wouldn't care as long as the ball goes in the back on it. That's the main thing at the end. And fair play to them for utilizing the set pieces because your man who does it, I think he was at Man City as well, if I remember. I think he was at Man
Yeah,
City as
there,
well.
there was a stat that came up yesterday after the match. That was Arteta's 100th victory in the Premier League. I think only Pep, Klopp, Ferguson, Mourinho,
Wenger, maybe.
and Wenger, and the
Yeah.
Wenger one's like 3 games, whatever, got there quicker. The 100 ones. We're seeing all these different ways Arsenal can play. Yes, they've had investment, but they've got the right players on. It's not. It's obviously there's a lot more to it than Arteta. There's obviously a committee team there, and the owners have backed that committee team. But I mean, you starting to think this man, although he was given a lot of time at Arsenal, and possibly more time than some thought he should have, that he's starting to become one of the best. I mean, you look at his big game record this year. Unbeaten against Klopp, unbeaten against Pep. 1 and 2 years in a row at Spurs.
We beat them in the FA Cup.
Sorry, in the league. And you could even argue that FA Cup game, Liverpool's numbers come up because Arsenal managed chance after chance. So, I mean, on these big games against the big man, he seems to be able to get results. And Arsenal have been playing quite well in these games. So, could he be the next manager to emerge as the next, he could be at Arsenal for the next 10 years? Obviously, there's a lot of different times in football, but, I mean, he's starting to prove he is one of the best.
He could be, but he has to prove it by winning things as well. Like, as much... I know he's won a couple of FA Cups, and I know he came close last season against Man City. He's going to come, in my opinion, he's going to come up short again this season. So it's whether
yeah, the other way around. I remember Wenger was on the list, but Arteta must have got there a couple of games quicker. I knew it was very tight between them two.
If they don't get over the line, if he doesn't win a league or a Champions League or one of the big trophies, then can he be considered one of the best? So it's whether he can.
I think until he gets over the line in one of them big competitions, he's always going to be considered a bridesmaid.
Because you have to. Yeah, I know you never want to see Arsenal win anything, but for me, he has to win one of the big two, and thankfully.
Well, as I say, if Arsenal were to finish second this year and then go again and finish second next year, obviously there's going to be that element of can he get us over the line? But then we spoke about it with Klopp. As he's just unlucky that he's ran Andy Pep. I always say I compared it to you, almost like Andy Murray in tennis. Yeah. Great tennis player, but he ran Andy Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer all at the one time. And he still won, but he never won half as much as he probably would have won in a different generation. And you look at Klopp's tenure here, would he have won a lot more if Guardiola wasn't here? You could even throw back even the Mourinho teams and the Ferguson teams didn't really hit the 90s every single season, whereas Pep's teams do.
If Man City doesn't exist in the way that they do, Liverpool would have another 2, 3, 4 Premier League titles, maybe.
It's a difficult one because I think there will be, even though Arsenal will back themselves, I still think they would love to see Pep hang his boots up because, as you say, I mean, if Man City are here next year, everyone will fancy them. But
if Arteta goes on and wins Arsenal the Champions League, he's the only manager to ever do that, so that'll put him on the status on his own.
Let's look at Arsenal's last 3 games. Bournemouth at home, United away, Everton at home. Now, I think they pointed this out that Old Trafford can be a bit of a graveyard for teams. Going as bad as United have been all season, they are capable of nicking a game on the counter attack. I don't see any way. When Arsenal go to Old Trafford, I think it'll be very much the opposite. I don't think they'll be able to. I think United will only sit back. So I think the onus may be on United or Arsenal to come at United.
Yeah.
And we've seen it last year. United hit them on the counter attack. They beat them 3-1.
This season,
even the game this season, Arsenal dominated the game, but United almost won it at the end. The offside again, very very close on a different day that could go for you, and they would have won that game 2-1. And Arsenal dominated it. So that still put particularly a dangerous game, and I don't think they'll make the same mistake that Liverpool did, and I don't think they'll go there and take United lightly. I think they'll approach that as a very difficult game, and the record in these games this year has been quite good, so they will be confident. I think Bournemouth at home, they've achieved everything they could have wanted. They've breached their records points tally. I think very much the flip-flops could be on now, and Everton in the final day or SIF. So you think it comes down to that United game where they get the 9 points?
I expect them to get 9 points. I think by the time United game comes about, United will be focusing on the FA Cup. Like they're not going to. They mathematically can't get Champions League. But the best hope is they finish in a Europa League spot. But dear God, I'm hoping they finish in a Conference League spot because I would not shut up about that all summer. But
Danny saying that you could throw out about most things. If Pep Spurs weren't about, maybe United would have had a couple more Champions Leagues, and he's right as well. I suppose at this level, you're always going to run under all our great sides, or in any sport, all our great competitors.
For me, it's like I'll be going into next season now, and I'll be thinking, God, as much as we didn't win as much as we probably should have, God, it was great under Klopp, and we'll see how it goes now under Arne Slot.
Quickly, how many points the Arsenal get from the final 3?
9.
You fancy them to get all 9? Let's look at Man City because don't think they pulled up any trees yesterday. Forest must have very good on chances, as Forest tend to do. I remember when they played Spurs, they missed chances. They played Liverpool, they missed chances, and they were outplayed for most of the game against Arsenal. But they got a goal, and then it was a mad scramble at the end. And I know they always seem to be able to stay in games at home. Even the big teams have sort of, you always look at that and think it's a tricky enough game going there. And I said using the podcast on Saturday, you were all saying 4-0. I just thought this would be much more difficult than what people thought. And City made hard work of it. In the end, Haaland comes on and wraps up the points. What was your thoughts on yesterday's game? Do you think Man City were quite fortunate that Forest were again profligate in front of goal?
If Forest had took some of their chances, like Chris Wood missed, I would say 2-3 sitters maybe.
He done the same thing twice. He missed the ball, didn't he? Twice, or he must have it.
So on a different day, we could be sitting here now with Arsenal, and you could be sitting nearly depressed where Arsenal's
being a really bad Sunday if Forest had a stop City one.
Being in Arsenal's hands, but no, as City do, they often find a way to grind out wins, and I just now with them being, especially with them having a game in hand, now I think they'll go on and get the 12 points they need to finish the job. Unfortunately,
you can bring Haaland off the bench. I mean, you're laughing all the way to the bank, aren't you? I mean, I think Roy Keane says he's back to being a championship player now, but when he got into that situation, you just knew it was going to go on the back on it. I mean, the Forest defender was terrified.
He's a machine. Like, as much as I think his overall play isn't great, once he gets on one-on-one with the keeper, it's your bank. Like, it's a safe bet that it's going to be in the back on it.
Suppose one of the most shocking statistics this season, I think, is the Golden Boot's still very much up for grabs. Haaland's probably a slight favourite, but there's only a few games to go, and I think everybody any gambler would have said at the start of the season Haaland's going to win that Golden Boot, especially how easy it was last year.
To be fair to him, he's been out injured a good chunk of the season too.
He has been injured at times, yeah.
He's up there now. Haaland and Palmer, isn't it?
I think Haaland's on 21, Palmer's on 20, Isak Watkins on 19.
Oh, it'll be tight. I think Haaland will want that Golden Boot. I think he'll go and score a bag full in the last few games.
Obviously, they're one of a few teams that only have 4 games. There's some teams only have 3. I think Newcastle and Villa only have 3, but Chelsea actually have 5. So Palmer potentially could still get it down. I think it's between them 4. I think anyone else is too far behind, unless somebody bangs on a hat trick, and then you never know. But I think
against Spurs at the weekend.
Well, he enjoys playing against Spurs, and Son, to be fair, enjoys playing against Liverpool. He's in 16, but I think they're too far behind at this stage. Let's look at City's last 4 games. Wolves at home, Fulham away, Spurs away, and West Ham home. Now, everybody was speaking about this Spurs game as being, with the Man City record there. I know they won the FA Cup, but for me, I'm looking at it and thinking the Fulham one's potentially the most difficult one. Because I think Wolves at this stage now are on the beach. Fulham away, yes, they haven't got much to play for, but I think usually at home, although they didn't really play well against Liverpool, they tend to be decent. Spurs away, we'll get into the way. I think that's not going to be a good day for Arsenal fans. And West Ham at home, I think as well. Very little they play for, and their record away at these big grounds, West Ham is pretty poor. And they don't tend to go to these places and win. So, any problems for City there in the final four?
No, I expect them to get 12. Going into the Spurs game, like, how do you feel about it? Do you want Spurs to win?
I mean, they were speaking about this in Talk Sport today. I mean, if anyone's in the chat, go and remind me, but if this has ever happened, but I cannot remember a situation where you could see Spurs fans actually cheering Man City on here, because unless Spurs would have won their 3 games before that, man, I don't see any way they're going to finish 4th, and I just don't see anybody in behind being able to catch them, because I mean they need probably win every game and hope Spurs lose every game. And I think Spurs with Burnley and Sheffield United, they're bound to get some points. So I think Spurs is going to be sitting there probably out of reach for 4th. Nobody in behind them in 5th. And I just don't see any way they would want to turn up. And I mean, I actually think in a weird situation, if Spurs were to score, I think there'd be fans booing. Because I really think they don't want Arsenal, they won the league. And like, what benefit the Spurs get by beating Man City? Because they're not going to get anything out of it other than handing Arsenal the title. If Spurs can somehow win these next few games, it makes it a different game then, because I think Spurs have to try and do their own job. And if it comes down to that game and there's a chance of getting Champions League, you have to play it. But I think by then it's going to be out of Spurs' reach. I think if Villa won this weekend away at Brighton, and Brighton have been struggling recently, if Spurs don't get 6 points this week, I think that top 4 is gone. So, I mean, what kind of atmosphere? It's going to be a very strange watch.
I think you're right. If Man City score, I wouldn't be surprised if some Spurs fans would be celebrating.
I mean, I remember there was Arsenal fans saying that that shows you the mentality and how small the club is and Spurs and getting at them. But I remember when Arsenal was on a Europa League final and Spurs was on the Champions League final in the same against Liverpool. There was Arsenal fans saying, if it meant losing the Europa League final, I would want. If it means Spurs losing the Champions League final, so it's the same for both clubs. Regardless of size, nobody wants to see their rivals win a league title, especially when it's been 20 years.
It's sort of like the times we were going up against Man City. When Man United were playing Man City, I was thinking, do they really want to beat Man City here? Because I think they would prefer Man City. They want it else.
It's going to be a very strange. I mean, if Arsenal would have won all their games before that. If they were to beat Bournemouth and Arsenal, and City were to beat Wolves and Fulham, I think that's going to be a very strange atmosphere in that stadium. As I say, unless Spurs, and it's very unlikely they won their next 3 games.
How do you feel about it? Like, as a fan?
I'm in the camp of if we're out of the top 4 race, you want Man City, they want it. I won't be cheering Spurs on. No way. Especially as I says, beat Man City. We've done that enough times over the years, but we literally can't move up or down on the table by this stage. I don't really care what happens against
It'll be a strange one, because if Spurs won that game, there'll be a lot of disappointed people.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, I just don't see any way Spurs will beat City.
Not in these.
You know what? Even if Spurs was playing them and trying to beat them, they could possibly still be beaten anyway, because we know Man City at this stage of the season. But I think it could be just turn up Man City and that'll be the job done. I just don't see Spurs helping out.
As long as you don't get humiliated, because then that'd be different. But no,
I think it might be one of them sort of Spurs aren't up for it and City sense it, and then they get a couple and they just say, right, we'll pass it around.
But I said they'll get 12 points and they'll finish the job. That's the way I see it.
Now, it was very much a 3-team title race for a long time. It is definitely now only a 2-team race. Mathematically, it's not over, but I think everyone knows it is. I mean, what did you make of Saturday's game? Because I think the commentator said it on numerous occasions. It felt very much a flat game. Teams that often they play for. I mean, Liverpool, yes, it was difficult, but they weren't totally out of it before Saturday. You never knew what was going to happen in the North London derby, and City still had that difficult Forest trip. I know the 2 teams that ended up winning, but it's definitely all over now. And very strange how Liverpool approached that game, I thought.
I just think the players are ready for the season to end and go fresh in the summer and start over with a new manager. And I think even if we had won that game on Saturday, I think the players would have still thought.
Do you think they've literally waved the white flag and just says, you know what, this is it. We're just going to almost
See, to
like
be honest,
test. I mean, it'll be interesting to see on Saturday or on Sunday because I don't see the Anfield crowd let Liverpool just ride these last couple of games out.
no, I think we'll want to beat Spurs because of what happened in September. I think we'll want to get some sort of revenge. But you know what? As mad as they say, I don't really care about the next two games. It's the Wolves game and the last day of the season. I'm
It's a
looking
very
forward to
strange
that.
situation. It's a very strange situation as
Yeah.
well because Liverpool's in a very similar situation to the one I think Spurs could be in. Is that Liverpool probably can't finish any higher. I'm not going to finish any lower.
Yeah.
So they could probably lose the last 3 games and still finish third. I
Yeah.
just don't see them being caught. So I mean,
I've-
it's a many points are Villa behind.
7.
So they could, I have Liverpool won all three, and Liverpool were to lose all three. Villa could still, but that's providing Villa won all their games, and
And we're
Liverpool would
playing
only
all
do
three,
it.
so that could be.
Well, that's but
Yeah,
that's it.
I
Would you
think
be worried if Villa were to won on Sunday and Spurs went there and beat them? Because you could
worried how
then Villa
about
beat them, but
finishing fourth.
I suppose it makes no real difference. Does it?
Nah, fourth or third. Like we're still going to be in the Champions League next season, regardless. No, I want this. I no, it wasn't even the FA Cup match for me. It was the United League game. I think I just sapped everything out of the players. I know there's been a lot of talk of saying the Klopp announced it too early, but
If they were to lose the last 3 games, how do you think that would? How do you think that would go down? You know, if they were to lose the final 3, or maybe say get a draw and lose 2, you know, finish the season really poorly. And as you say, if they finish, they end up finishing fourth in a 3-horse title race. You don't want to be tarred with that brush, do you?
no, but I generally I think regardless of what happens between that Wolves game is gonna be it's gonna be an emotional day. Like so, I don't think necessarily I don't think the Wolves result matters, but I want to go and beat Spurs. That's the game. Like I want to go and beat Spurs. Like
Should
just
be an
even.
entertaining game one because we know
I
what Ange
as I
is going to do,
said,
we know what Klopp is going to do. So
both teams can't defend. Liverpool can't seem to attack or defend at the minute. So God knows how that's going to be. But I'm sure it'll be an interesting watch anyway for the neutral, regardless of both teams having the hun to play for. Really.
well, hopefully if we can get a one on Thursday, we'll have something to play for. But again, they want that because then we have to try and beat Man City. I don't know. I haven't made my mind up yet, but no, I want to beat Chelsea. And I'll be lying if I says I don't want to go to Anfield and get a result too. So no, we'll approach the Man City game. We come to it. Ideally, if United can beat Arsenal, I can actually enjoy the Man City game then, but we'll see. I mean, some news broke today. It looks like Mo Salah set to stay at Liverpool. A lot of people thought he was on his way out, especially after what happened on Saturday. But I suppose maybe the Klopp going, Salah stays. Strange one because as good as he has and as good as he still is, I'm not sure this is the right decision. I think Liverpool should look at it like they got him for what 35 million. If they can sell him for 100 million, they've had his best years. Still a great player, but do you want to be sitting there in 2 years' time having to replace a player like Salah? We know money there. They do it.
It depends because you don't want to lose Salah, Klopp, and possibly Van Dijk in the same. Like you don't know what's going to happen there. So
Do you think Salah staying could indicate maybe Van Dijk's on his way out? Because it's going to cost a lot of money to re-sign them 2 players up because they're on big money as it is. I'm thinking maybe there's more to the Van Dijk one now.
What I think is going to happen is there's talk of Salah getting a 1-year deal, but I think what's going to happen is Salah will leave at the end of next season for nothing.
Surely it's going to be a 1-year extension. Surely a 1-year contract. It's not going to. Sure, that
Maybe
they go for free the following year.
Maybe they've made an agreement just to say right, we'll keep you for this season, but you're going next season. But I
Just
don't
doesn't
know.
sound like something Michael Edwards would do. But you know, you could lose
No,
a
that's
player.
why.
You're talking about keeping a player for 100 million and let him go the following season. Is he worth 100 million for one season?
Suppose the Saudis will pay anything because they really want them. Like, but the thing that made me think Salah was going to leave was because Michael Edwards came in. Because
you would think as well. We seen with Spurs, right? And I actually think Kane was probably more important to Spurs than Salah as they Liverpool, because I think Liverpool have ours there that are strong. I know Spurs have Son too, but you think about Kane, he was carrying Spurs, you know, scoring all of them goals on his own. Spurs let him go for the 100 million, or he would have went free this summer if he didn't sign up. And Spurs got Madison, they got Van de Ven, they got Udogie, they got Vicario, all that money. Like, and it's not to say Kane's not a must. Of course, he's a must, but they've replaced him in a way with different players around the squad. I think Spurs have scored more goals this year as well, even though Kane's not being there. So Liverpool's a big football club. I think they would recover if Salah went and they got good money for him, because I think they could replace him. I just think if they let him leave for nothing, and then they have to try and find out money somewhere. I know necessarily they may not buy a player for 100 million directly to replace Salah, but they could even possibly improve all areas of the team with that money.
Yeah. What I think is going to happen in the summer, Salah's going to stay, but I think we'll buy someone. I'm making a shout. I think we're going to buy Somerville from Leeds.
Decent player, but I mean, is that the type of player Liverpool should be looking at?
It's not, but Liverpool always look for them young players. They bred them on like Salah. When we signed Salah, he was only what, 24, 25. So like we always sign, we don't sign superstars. We sign young players to make them into superstars, which hasn't always worked.
Does that worry you that I know Klopp was able to do it, but Slot it doesn't come with the same reputation Klopp already had. We know Powell's been a good coach, but he didn't have that sort of aura that Klopp had. When Klopp came, everyone took notice of it. This one, not so much at the moment. If Liverpool go down that road of we're going to do a 4 or 5 year plan, you look at Arsenal at the moment, very strong. Man City, probably Pep won't be there in 5 years' time, but at least in the next year or two, he could still be there. Yeah. What does Slot do? Do you want Liverpool won titles? Because I think maybe Spurs fans would accept finishing fourth. I don't think Liverpool fans will. I think they want to very much be competing for league titles.
I think in his first season we would accept top four. Like, you can't expect them to go on and straight away challenge for titles. No, I would be pleasantly surprised if we're sitting here in 12 months time.
Is the difference with Arsenal and Liverpool at the minute that if Arsenal see a player and costs a lot of money, they'll come at it. You seen it with Declan Rice. They weren't put off by the price. They says, no, we want him at all costs, and it's worked. Do you sense Liverpool will go a different way in the summer? They try and again bring in players that maybe aren't as high value and try and make them on the top players. But I just wonder, is that still possible when you've got such strong teams up against you?
Well, look what we did last summer. We signed McAllister for what, 40 million, Szoboszlai for 60. Like, we tried to sign Caicedo, well, allegedly, I'll say, but we're not short of money, and no matter who the manager is, Liverpool or a big club, and we're always going to attract top players. It's whether we pay up the dough. Like, you've seen it in recent years with Liverpool. We wanted Jude Bellingham, didn't get him. We wanted Caicedo, didn't get him. It's because we're all.
But there's a theme there that once players become on that 100 million bracket, Liverpool tend to make excuses for why they didn't sign them. Because I think Bellingham did want to go to Liverpool at one point. Maybe Madrid came on, but I think Liverpool got that deal done. And again, if he had it, I'm not saying they should have signed both of them, but if you look at both of them, they had to get either one of them or even both of them. Bellingham and Rice, Liverpool's a different side with them too.
Like, I had your head on him last summer because I was convinced we were getting Bellingham, but I do agree with you. If Liverpool had pulled the finger quickly, I generally think we would have got him. But
because I'm looking at it at the moment, right? I'm thinking Rice and Endo as a complete mismatch. I'm even looking at as good as McAllister's been, as he as good as Odegaard. I'm not so sure he is. And then you think about Partey when he's in there. I know they may have to replace him. That's a very strong. So you look at Man City, you look at Rodri, you look at De Bruyne, you look at Foden. It's good. Liverpool have good players, but I'm not sure they're quite at the level of Man City and Arsenal's players, and that's what I worry that if Slot's not as good as Klopp was, are Liverpool going to be able to challenge under this manager?
It's you never know.
I think he will need help. I think Liverpool will have to. If a player becomes available on the market that will improve them, that costs a lot of money, I think they have to take a chance and come at it.
I'm more confident in us doing that with Edwards there though as well, because he didn't come back without guarantees. I'm convinced that he didn't come back without FSG saying I'm not saying we're going to go and spend 100, 200, 300 million, but I'm convinced we're going to spend money.
What do you think they're working in the summer before sales?
I would say at a push as a budget, I would say 100 to 150.
Do you think that's enough? Because I'm looking at the squad. If they're not going to let Trent, if they're not going to let, we know they're not going to let Trent go. He's going to sign a contract, of course. If they're not going to let Van Dijk go, they're not going to let Salah go. I'm looking around the squad, thinking who they're going to sell that's going to generate loads of money, because they're not going to want to sell any of their better players. So I'm kind of thinking that Liverpool may have to go backwards. I think that's why there's a if Salah's staying, I think there's a chance Van Dijk goes, because I think Edwards will look at this and think we need somewhere to reinvest to get money in here, because we've seen it with Man City. They moved on a lot of players, and Jesus and Sterling, and they've reinvested that money. So I'm thinking maybe Liverpool may have to do the same. You might have to take a chance that you might have to let one of them boys go to get better overall.
Well, you seen with Coutinho, we did that, and that's where we got Alice. You know what? There's a player that no one's been speaking about that I'm really worried that might leave, and that's the goalkeeper. I'm really worried.
That's an R one. He's been linked as well, but the problem I think there is that I think Alisson's got a lot to offer. Yet still, goalkeepers can play a lot longer. And I'm thinking the money they get from, by the time they have to buy a replacement, goalkeepers aren't cheap anymore. Unless they go down the route of Spurs did and they try and sign a Vicario for 17 million.
Would we have to sign a replacement? We have a decent keeper with there.
Is he good enough? But is he
I think,
top level?
Maybe not top no, but I think he's good enough to play in the Premier League. Like, I don't know. I don't think we have a bad squad there. I don't think we need 4, 5, 6, 7 players.
I think if they get good offers for Nunez and Diaz, they could maybe let them go. But I think that's going to be difficult. I mean, Diaz, he might get, because they didn't pay a lot for Diaz. They paid 30, 40 million. If they were to get somewhere near 60 or 70, maybe. I think Nunez is a hard one, because I think you'd be taking a loss on him, and I don't think Liverpool will be prepared to do that.
We've already seen that there's reports coming out that Nunez isn't going anywhere. So I don't know whether that's a Liverpool thing or they just can't shift him. But if you look around the squad, like, we have a very young team. We have a couple of players coming back from loan that I think could be worth giving a shout to this season too. But I do think my top priority my two top priorities is a centre back and a defensive midfielder.
Over 30 watching here live, so don't be afraid to stick a comment on. We can answer questions as well. If you want to get involved, even if you're new around here, don't be afraid to stick on a comment, because I think once he's put on one, it's easier to put on the second one. Weekend review. Let's look back at some of the weekend results. So I'm not going to do all of them, because I think we'll be here all night. But we'll go to some of the more significant ones. Sheffield United give themselves a glimmer. I mean, it was a big ask, even if they had
on here. Newcastle 4-5.
Sheffield United scored a lot of goals, like a lot of games. They scored the first goal and they ran out of steam. Once Newcastle got back, once they went 2-1 in front, the floodgates opened, and that's happened to Sheffield United quite a lot this year. And that confirms their relegation. So sitting on 16 points, it's not quite the lowest we've ever had, but a very, very poor showing from Sheffield United. They've conceded 97 goals, and odds on they concede over 100. Really, really bad.
And you know what? I don't think they're in the best shape. They come straight back up either. I think.
No, well, they've got a points deduction too, haven't they, coming?
Aye, but then so did Leicester for coming up, I think. Congratulations to them, by the way. And speaking of that, before we get, I hope Ipswich come up. They're because they haven't been in the Prem in my lifetime.
Leeds seem to have run out of steam. I fancy them earlier in the season to go up, but it looks like we're going to go through the playoffs. Leicester promoted, of course, with that Leeds result the weekend, and they can be crowned champions with a victory tonight, with one game to spare. That kicks off in 5 minutes time. Plymouth away. Maybe they'll be motivated to go again, but I think sometimes not. Once you're up, you're up. I don't think people care too much about the league title like at them levels. But anyway, Connor Bradley's going to be an even better player coming new season. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But again, where does he play? Because unless you're going to play Trent on the field, Bradley's going to be playing.
This is the thing. Slot likes to play a 4-2-3-1. I think we are number 10, so stick Trent number 10. I don't know. No, United. Oh God.
Interesting. Literally a carbon copy of what Onana did to the Wolves player at the start of the season. And this time, I think once we seen one replay, we knew. I mean, it was no time at all. The referee was over the screen. We knew this was going to be punished, because Howard Webb said on that mic'd up officials with Michael Owen that if it did happen again involving any goalkeeper, that would be something that would be given as a penalty in the future. And funny enough,
did that happen in the Man City game yesterday, and it wasn't given, or I don't know.
I don't think this is obvious. It was the same thing again where he went down and he took him out with the fist.
It was sort of the player. It was sort of in the Man City one. It was sort of both players went on at the same time, I think.
And that probably means now United are not going to finish any higher than 6th, and they still have to fight off teams. So I mean, very poor season from United in the Premier League. They finished 6th after finishing 3rd, and it could be lower than 6th. We're not sure yet. but it'll be no higher than 6th now. And
You can
that
see
is
the
really, really
devastation
poor
on
from
my
a team
face.
that finished 3rd last year.
And it's not even the way it's the manager. He comes out and makes some ridiculous statements. What did he say? He came out after the Burnley game and said they're one of the most dynamic teams and fun teams they watch in the pro. I was like, what team
Well,
are
it
you
keeps
watching?
shouting progress, but not many people are seeing it.
Like it was like a basketball game. Like Burnley could have been 3-1 up, United could have been 3-1 up. It's just I think their focus is on the FA Cup final now. Like, but I think they're gonna get. I think it's gonna be an embarrassing FA Cup final.
And Burnley have given themselves a chance. I mean, great form in recent weeks. I think it's only 1 defeat in 8 games, and they've probably been unlucky that some of them draws could have been wins. And Luton have really came to a standstill in recent weeks. And Forest are still there as well. They'll be hoping to get some points back from that deduction. That's going to be very, very interesting to see what
You
happens
think they
there.
will?
Who knows?
Especially
I tell you
all
what,
the comments
even
and
if you offered them 1 point back, they would take it because it could be all the difference in this race. Down to 3 games each for the 3 teams at the bottom. I think Burnley play Forest in the last game at Burnley. That's going to be interesting. Luton play Everton this weekend, of course. Now, maybe it's a good time you play Everton now because they're safe, but who do you see is going down? I mean, Burnley probably have the momentum, but they're 2 points behind Forest and a point behind Luton, so maybe you'd all have the points in hand, but how do you see it finishing?
Oh, I'm gonna say Burnley stay up.
Burnley stay up.
Aye.
See, I think if you fancy they'll beat Forest on the last day.
I just think
Probably get a result somewhere else too. But they
I
do
just-
look the most likely the minute to get a result.
they've only lost 1 game in their last 8, I think it is.
8, I think.
Like for a team that 2, 3, 4 weeks ago was down and out, was gone. Like they've shown a lot of fight to get out of it, and I just think Luton are gone. Like I think they've checked out. I think their mid-season renaissance just sort of took it all out of them, and I think unfortunately them and Forest will be the ones they go down. Although I would like to see Burnley still because I don't like Forest.
Chelsea were denied a famous comeback at Villa Park. And do you know what I was thinking when this goal went on, the 3rd goal, before we done the VAR stuff? Pochettino's Spurs career turned around with a comeback victory at Villa Park. They were 1-0 down with 5 minutes. They only scored 2 goals. And then things started to improve in Poch's first season. And they were 2-0 down in this game. And they come back to 3-2. And it was similar scenes on that away end. And you're thinking, will this be the start of something for Pochettino? And VAR wasn't around then. And it is now, and that stopped Chelsea from a famous comeback victory at Villa Park, which would have been very impressive because Villa Park's I know they've not been a strong second half of the season, but to be 2-0 down at half time and come back would have been pretty special. But VAR got involved, Owen. But did they make the right decision? Because I think it's hard to argue it's not a foul, but I thought it was quite soft because if the referee gives it, no argument. But again, was it obvious and clear? I think you have to let it go once the ref because he's looking right at it.
Yeah, for me at the time I messaged you and I thought it was the correct decision, but then when you watch the replay, it's like it's a bit too soft for me, and this is where we get from VAR. Like how is that a clear and obvious foul? Again, you see that every single game, and 1 week it's a foul, 1 week it's not. So I just think in the summer they need to go and look at this clear and obvious and look at how they're refereeing the games and somehow come to a good medium to change it because it hasn't worked all season. Like many podcasts have I come on and other people have come on and we're talking more about VR and referees than we are the actual football, and nobody wants that.
That point in the end was probably a decent point for Villa because they were totally outplayed in the second half. And the fact that Spurs were beaten on Sunday, 7 points in front of Spurs, 2 games in hand Spurs have, but they are away at Chelsea and home to Man City, so difficult game. Still have to go to Anfield as well, as we said. Villa are probably there, or just there. They'll not be thinking they're there yet, but they probably know they're in a very strong position now.
If Spurs go and lose to Chelsea, then I think is that them.
Even if they draw Chelsea, I think that would be it. I think they'll be hoping Chelsea do them a favour now on Thursday. What Chelsea will turn up, we just do not know. If it's a Chelsea that played against Man City in the semi-final. Spurs have a hell of a game in their hands. If it's a Chelsea that turned up for the first half at Villa Park, Spurs have every chance. I mean, it's just you don't know what you're going to get from Chelsea.
No, and to be fair, we Villa as well. I want to pat myself on the back because in our early season predictions, that they were my surprise package, and it seems
You backed them for fourth, didn't you?
I think I said fourth or fifth as between there. I think I had Spurs in eighth, so that didn't work out. But no, you never know what sort of game Chelsea and Spurs are going to have, and again, I think it's going to be an exciting game too.
Well, Owen, we've almost come full circle. I think we're on like Wednesday is the first day of May, and it's very much time is running out now on this season. But there's big games to look forward to before that's over. Tuesday, tomorrow night, we've got Bayern Munich against Real Madrid in the Champions League. Jude Bellingham versus Harry Kane. Obviously, these are two-legged ties. So I'm going to ask you for your prediction for tomorrow night's game and then the overall tie. Tough one to call. Madrid are probably favourites now that they've knocked City out. And even if City had been doubt and Madrid had been still there, they would have been favourites anyway. But I think any one of these four teams will fancy themselves at one of them. I don't think there's a clear favourite. I think all these teams are capable of beating each other now. So maybe that makes it more exciting because I think there would have been people would have thought maybe Man City would they would be strong favourites if they had to come through the Madrid tie. Whereas I think it's a bit more open now. And as poor as Bayern Munich have been in the league, I wouldn't write them off against Real Madrid over 2 games.
No, my dream scenario for the Champions League final will be Bayern versus Dortmund. Run it back from like 11, 12 years ago. Wembley final. But
well, there's also the fact that maybe people want to see Real Madrid PSG because of the Mbappe thing. But
that'd be funny.
I think whatever final we get is going to be a decent one.
I think
interestingly, Owen, the obviously before the quarter-final draw was made, it looked odds on that England would have a 5th spot in the Champions League. The results went very badly. And Germany now have it on their hands. Italy are already there. They've got an extra spot. It's between Germany and England. England need a lot of things to go their way. They need the German teams. They really struggle. And I think they need Villa to win the Conference League. And I think Villa have to actually win all 3 games. They have to win both legs in the semi-final, which is possible against Olympiacos. But I suppose the bigger one is they need favourites here off Madrid and PSG. You wouldn't know. I mean, it's unlikely, but we've seen how quickly it changed in the quarterfinals. I mean, Madrid would probably be favourites against PSG or against Bayern Munich, and PSG would probably be favourites against Dortmund. So it's not totally impossible yet. So how do you see tomorrow? How do you see the first leg going in this game before you give me your overall prediction?
You'll be hoping all them things go your way and Spurs end up in a Champions League.
I think it's a lot to ask. I don't see it. I think even if teams, I think Dortmund and Bayern Munich, they're bound to get some sort of draws or they're at one in one of these games. So
I'm gonna for the first leg. I'm actually gonna go 2-2 in the first leg, and then Real Madrid they won it 1-0 at home.
Right, Dortmund PSG. How's that gonna go?
This one's a tricky one because PSG are obviously the more talented side. You would say
you don't know what you're going to get with PSG, but they flopped at home to Barcelona, and then they did recover. But I mean, that was down to their backyard, wasn't it? So
I forgot these two were in the same group as well.
It'd be interesting to see how PSG handle Dortmund away because I know they've played in the group stage before, but this will be a different atmosphere. Semi-final, the Dortmund's going to be pumping for this.
You know what? I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say 2-1 Dortmund in the first leg and a 1-1 in the second leg. Dortmund they reach the Champions League final.
Madrid Dortmund final. I think Bayern Munich. I think the 2 German teams have to win these opening games to get through. I think if they're draws, I fancy them. They are teams in the home games. I'm going to say Bayern Munich's going to win the first game 2-1.
Yep.
And I think Madrid's going to win the second game 2-1 or 3-2. I think that could go to extra time and penalties. I'm just going to say Madrid will just get through, but I think that's going to be super tight.
So Madrid,
Dortmund PSG. I think Dortmund they need to try and get them put this to bed because I think they have that opportunity. I think PSG, if we're going to succumb under the atmosphere, there's a chance. So I'm going to say Dortmund's going to win the first game, but I think it's going to be they're going to miss. I think they're going to regret it. I think they're going to win 2-1 and then lose the second game 2-0. So I'm going to go for a Madrid PSG final.
Imagine Mbappe scoring a 90th minute winner against Real Madrid or something in the final.
So who do you fancy in the final? If it's Madrid Dortmund, who would you fancy there?
Well, I would love to say Dortmund, but you would put your hat on Madrid like they're European kings, as I know all too well.
Yep. Villa Olympiacos semi-final. Villa now heavy favourites for this.
Aye.
Well, I think the final will be, it could be Fiorentina in the final, which will be, they were there last year, so they
Amy
know they've got that
Martinez is out
experience.
for this too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's out, and obviously they were 2-0 when he went off the other night and lost the game 3-2. Not that I think, or they drew 2-2 and could have lost 3-2. Not that I think the goalkeeper had any
Yeah.
fault in them goals, but I think Martinez brings confidence in that defence, and I think he will be a big
Yeah.
miss. But I think they'll be okay here in this home
Yeah.
game without him.
I agree. I think they'll put this to bed at home. I'm going to go 3-0 Villa.
And then obviously they get 3 in.
Yeah.
And then there's a Premier League game on Thursday night, of course. Chelsea plays Spurs in the Battle of the Bridge. It's another saga. It'll be interesting to see how this one goes. They're usually spicy games. So I think the neutrals will want to see something similar because they have been great watches over the last few years.
I'm going to go for another exciting game. I'm going to go 3-2 Spurs.
Aye, that'll be a great result.
If it's half as good as the last one you read, then if it's half as good as the one you read, then we'll be laughing.
Spurs should be motivated for revenge in this game, so I'll go along with you. I'll say 3-2 Spurs, but I'll say that very cautiously. And that takes us to the end of the podcast. Sorry, are you going to say something there?
No, I was just going to say it's gonna be a very interesting week for Spurs, especially Arsenal, Chelsea, and then Liverpool at the weekend.
Yeah. And where can people find you? And of course, you're going to be doing the Euros on your channel this summer.
Yep, my channel's took a bit of a hiatus during the last bit of the season. I've just been busy and stuff, but now I'll be, as soon as the Euros start, as soon as the big games start, even I'll be getting that back up and running. So look out for that. It's called the Anfield Road, so check out it.
Yeah, you can find him on YouTube at the Anfield Road. I say he'll be taking you through the summer. I'll not be doing much during the summer. I think me and Owen are coming on June the 18th. We're going to take a break after the FA Cup final. As I said, I don't think we'll bother with a Champions League final part because it's not going to be any team involved. So I don't really think, if it had been Liverpool or United involved or even Man City, Arsenal, we probably would have done something. But I think after the FA Cup final, we'll do your end of season awards. And then we'll be taking a break until 18th of June. I'm off work that day. The fixtures are out on the 18th of June because I'm going on holidays that day. So me and Owen's going to jump on here at 9 o'clock in the morning. They talk about the new fixtures being released and cast our eyes over who's playing who and stuff, and start to mathematically plot where we're going to win the league next year. But we'll be back for that.
We all know who's going to win the league next year.
But between now and that FA Cup final, we're going to be doing loads of podcasts between now and then. It's obviously the Premier League still for grabs, and there's still a lot to be decided in terms of the top of the league and the bottom. I'm going to be back on Friday. Meets is on, Callum's going to be on, and I'm hoping one of my family Spurs fans is going to be on. So there's going to be 4 of us on here on, Saturday morning it is. Sorry, it was to be Friday night, but we're doing it Saturday morning now. So Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, we'll be talking Liverpool versus Spurs. We'll be reflecting on the Champions League games as well, and obviously that game between Chelsea and Spurs. We'll be looking at Liverpool and Spurs on Friday night as the rest of the weekend action. You looking forward to that one on Sunday one?
It's a weird one because the pressure's off in a way.
Cheers, Danny, for that. Danny, one of our most loyal listeners. And there's been a lot of people. I tell you what, the numbers watching live this season have definitely been much higher than before, and I think as the season goes on, we're getting more. As I say, over 30s watching. I don't know if it was different people coming out, but there seem to be a lot of people watching tonight live. I think it always helps when there's no game on. I know Leicester's playing now, but I think it always helps when there's no Premier League games on. But we'll be back on Saturday morning, taking you through all the news and looking forward to the weekend. So, Owen, pleasure as always. If you're new around here, make sure you like the channel, like the video, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. We'll see you on Saturday morning.